Hello! As you can see, I'm in my classroom doing yet another flipped video for you. Today I'm going to be talking about Baron de Montesquieu. He's one of the most famous French philosophers during the Age of Enlightenment, the unit that we're currently going over. And aside from having an awesome name, he's also famous for his political thoughts that eventually have a major influence on the United States, even to this day. So, where's Montesquieu from? What's his country of origin? Well, Montesquieu was born in a small town near the city of modern-day Bordeaux, which is in southern France. You can see the location with the red dot there in the lower left-hand corner of France, also known as the southwestern corner of France. Bordeaux is famous for being the capital of a wine region in France and also being a name that Mr. Cope clearly cannot pronounce. Montesquieu actually received his title of Baron not as a first name but as a title from his uncle because he lived with him after both his parents died while he was still a young lad. Originally Montesquieu started out as a lawyer but quickly became a political philosopher, and that's why most of his political philosophy deals with rights and laws. Montesquieu's views on rights, for instance. It's almost as if I had planned that transition. You can see a portrait of Montesquieu on this slide, by the way. Montesquieu is largely influenced by two major political events that took place during his lifetime. The first was when England became a constitutional monarchy. You'll remember from the previous unit that there was this thing called the Glorious Revolution when William and Mary overthrew James and became the rulers of England and established England as a constitutional monarchy. The second major influence on Montesquieu was the fact that France was ruled by Louis XIV. And as you remember from the previous unit, Louis XIV ruled for 72 years, not 17 years, 72 years as an absolute monarch. So as a result of these two influences, Montesquieu believed in a constitutional form of government, the separation of power, the right to a fair trial, the presumption of innocence during a trial, freedom of thought, freedom of speech, the right to assemble peacefully, that women could actually rule like men, and that slavery should be outlawed. So he wrote these works down in his thoughts down in a variety of different works. In fact, there are 12 works that are considered to be influential in all of world history. However, one stands above the rest, and that is called The Spirit of the Laws. You can see what the cover of The Spirit of the Laws look like on this slide. It's because of this work and this book that the word despotism became a common word to describe poor leadership, and in fact poor absolute leadership. He had to publish the work anonymously originally because he would have been arrested had it been attributed to him in France at that time, because it challenged the authority of the absolute monarchy. In fact, the Catholic Church banned this book as well because they were largely aligned with the French government at this time, and so they were trying to limit the amount of readership of it as well. It was in this book where Montesquieu writes his ideas about laws and rights and outlines how that should look. He outlines the constitutional form of government. He wants a constitutional form of government because he believes that the authority of the ruler needs to be restrained. The ruler needs to have authority, but it should be restrained. He also outlines the separation of powers. By this he means there should be an executive branch, like a president or a king. There should be a legislative branch, like a Congress or a parliament, and there should be a judicial branch, like a Supreme Court or a High Court. He also outlined in this book that there should be a right to a fair trial, that everyone should be presumed innocent during the trial, that you should have the freedom to think as you choose, that you should have the freedom to speak freely and openly your beliefs, and that you should have the right to assemble peacefully. Furthermore, he outlined that women could rule like men and that slavery should be abolished within this book. So in the end, this book and Montesquieu himself have a huge impact on the United States and the rest of the world. Most constitutional governments today around the world are influenced by Montesquieu and can directly attribute their constitution's creation to his works. And the United States is no exception. The founding fathers were largely influenced by the spirit of the laws. In fact, Montesquieu's beliefs are referenced more by the founding fathers than any other idea, book, person, with the exception of the Bible. James Madison, who is known as the father of the Constitution, was probably the founding father who's influenced by the spirit of the laws the most. And that is evident in the U.S. Constitution because he wrote in many of the beliefs that Montesquieu talked about. That's why today we have the belief in a constitutional form of government, the separation of power, specifically our executive branch being the president, our legislative branch being the Congress, made up of the House of Representatives and the Senate, and our judicial branch being made up of the Supreme Court. We also have written into our Constitution the right to a fair trial, the presumption of innocence during that trial, the freedom of speech, and the right to assemble peacefully. And on the right-hand side here, you can see the first page of the Constitution, or the original Constitution that it is. I hope you understand Montesquieu better. If you don't, you know where to find me, room 209, before school, during lunch, specifically second lunch, and we can talk more about Enlightenment philosophers or Montesquieu in specific.